Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are in the country and in the world. And also, yes, I have started a couple of minutes early. Um, good few reasons for that. First of all, I can't shut my office door because my dog is in the doorway, and I tried to move her, and she's refusing to move. So, you know how these things are. But also, I've got a lot going on today, and I didn't want people to miss anything with all the things that are happening. I am waiting for everybody to join. We know today is going to be super busy. A lot of nostalgia, shall we say. 30 years of Delphi. It's pretty amazing, really, when you think about it. And we've also got some guests joining me today, for sure. We also have a pre-recorded video that's about 29 minutes long, just going over some of the good old days and things like that. I've noticed my screen behind me here, because it's got that Delphi logo on, it's confusing the camera. My camera's going, well, I need to focus. I need to focus. So I'm probably going to change that background. It seemed like a good idea at the time, but it's messing around with my autofocus on my camera. So we'll go from there. So that I could start and say hi to everybody, I am, like I say, started early. Let's call out some of the people that are saying hi. Victoria in Australia, good morning, and it's early for you, so thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it, Ian. Great name, Ian. All the best people are called Ian. We know that, don't we? Boyan, who is always not only there, but always first as well. And you know, he's based in the LA area, and I hope escaped all the nastiness that went on down there. You know, the wildfires and things like that. I did talk to him, and he was okay at the time, so I'm thinking that's good. But Boyan, I really appreciate it. He is a tech partner, and he he does some really interesting stuff with Internet of Things, and we are going to talk more about that in another webinar. Ian said he told his daughter he had been using Delphi for 30 years, and she said she knew I was old. But, well, dude, come on, like, look at this. This is a guy who used Delphi 1 from day one. I've always used Delphi from Delphi version 1. So, you know, I'll talk more about this in the video, but a lot of people that work for Embarcadero are big fans of the product. It's not just that we work for the company. We came to the company because we liked the product. So, you know, a lot of good things going on. And also, Stefan says he's just noticed the Getting Started with Rad Studio ebook in Get It. Well done. Yes. And one of the main authors for that, it was a group effort, but one of the main authors for that is going to be here as well in a moment, well, in about 30 minutes. A few people asking where you can get it from. And of course, the actual fact of the matter is that you can get it from Get It, which is why we call it that. Let me just hide your message. But if you go to Rad Studio and go to Tools, Get It Package Manager, and then the package manager will show up. There's a new entry down in the categories called Books. And if you click on that radio button, you will see that there is currently one book available. We're hoping to make some more, but this one is specifically, we pulled out all the stops. The people that are involved in it, Stephen Ball was one of them, Antonio Zapata, who will be here with me later, plus a number of other people as well, put in supreme effort to make sure this book will be available today, because today is, as it says on the little logo in the top corner there, it's the 30th anniversary of Delphi's release. But a free ebook for you. Go down and get it. It's there now waiting for you. And I'm going to hide that again so that we can go back and see my wonderful shiny blurry face because of the camera. I am going to change that background. Let's go back and just say hi to a few people. So Roland Kossoff. Hello, Roland. Happy 30th anniversary. Hi, everybody. Thomas. Oh, Thomas, I'm sorry. I would attempt. Oh, Stephen Ball is joining us as well. He says hi. 30th anniversary Delphi from Austria. Just dug out my original CD, Delphi 1. Wow. You had it on CD? You know, I had it on floppy disk, I seem to remember, which we'll talk about later. But wow, that's pretty awesome. And also, let me just turn off some of my notifications because some naughty person always does this. I go off and I have there we go. Good. Do not disturb. They know I'm They're employees. They know I'm broadcasting, yet they insist on pinging me with messages. So go away. Who else have we got? Nigel says hello. Nolan says hello. Nigel from Southern England. I was talking to the other day about something, and he's got some plans about something. Happy 30th birthday from Nolan. Ian Branch said he's going to print out the book and have a quiet read with a glass of wine. Why don't you load it to a Kindle if you've got one? Because it will do that. Don't do yourself in. It's there to. You'll find it in the download section. It's in the normal Get It repository place. Happy 30th anniversary from Peru. Thank you, Jose. And Ron as well is saying, "Oh, to be 30 again." I know, right? I'm seeing that way in the rearview mirror as I drive away into the sunset to old age, as you do. Happy birthday from San Carlos. Woohoo! Francis Moore from Wilton in the UK. Happy 30th birthday. And he's doing a lot of stuff with the National Health Service. I keep in touch with Francis. Tells me what gets up to. Bruce. Hello, Bruce. From sunny Toronto, who always confuses me because I remember he's Canadian, but I see him most often on the Australian Delphi user group, so that's very confusing. But anyway, he's in Toronto, in Canada. Hello, Bruce. Hope you're doing well. Or am I thinking of Paul McGee? Maybe I'm getting confused with my McGees. There's so many of you. Not as many as the Barkers, though. We're like a big clan. Haito says hello. Ralph says hello from Berlin. Marcin Moskowiec says hello from Poland. Dzień dobry to you, Marcin. I hope you're doing well over there in Poland and keeping warm. I know it's pretty cold over there at the moment. And Colin Maharaj, who probably is not in any way cold whatsoever, is in Trinidad. So those are saying hello to all the people I can for now. Right. So my guests today, I've got a good few of them, shall we say, and I'm going to try and fit them all in. Some of them you're going to recognize me immediately. Some of them you've probably seen on the webinars and things like that. And some of them you may not know what they do unless you've been to a user event or something like that, because there's a lot of stuff going on. David I says, hello from snowy Ashland, Oregon. Martin and I are still snowed and iced in. Wow. Yeah, he's got to clear his long driveway after some more warm temperatures and rain. It's been cold here as well in Dallas. It's been below freezing, which is we don't understand how that works. It's not something we do, but yeah, good to hear from you, David. And maybe on later. A happy 30th from Brazil. Bom dia to our Brazilian crew. There are a lot of those around. Salut to Einstein, who's always here in Nantes. Can't say probably hello, good afternoon in German, but I'll say hello anyway. Hi. Guten Tag, I think. Guten Abend. Guten Abend. Anyway, hello. And Perth, Western Australia. Wow, we've really packing in the countries today. Wow, dzień dobry. Marcin's impressed, I can say that. I have a Polish stepfather. It's about the only thing I can say in Polish. And stolat. If you're Polish, you'll understand. If you're not Polish, you'll have no idea what I'm talking about. But stolat, yeah, it's a good song. Big love to Delphi from Walid. Hello, Walid. I know where you are as well. And Safari says, Delphi was my second programming language after Turbo Pascal. Absolutely true. And this is one of the things that we're talking about as well, is that it's a long history and there's been some ups and downs and bumps and along the road, but we're still here and going from strength to strength. We are currently number nine in the TIOB index, not number 10. We're not only in the top 10, we're in the top 9. So hello from Ukraine, hand pink waving. Hope you're keeping well, keeping safe, and world events are not affecting you too horribly. War is always wrong, in my opinion. It doesn't matter nobody ever wins in war, and so I do hope you're all keeping well. We don't pick sides. Our only religion is Delphi, and our only politics are tabs or spaces. That's how we work it. So good luck to you all. Malvern Flying Well remembers being at the Moscone Centre on February the 14th. Yes, 30 years ago today for the launch. I'm walking away with the zero point 0.9 pre-release of Delphi to evaluate. Fantastic. In less than a day, we as a company was sold on it. Yes, me too. I read a magazine article about it and went, I'm going to get that. It makes a lot of sense. Wow, so many people saying hi. I'm probably not going to get through them all, even though I started early. But more Brazilians, Kelva is from Brazil, and so is Adalberto Santos de Oliveira. There's some Brazilians on later in the movie. Happy birthday, Delphi from Italy. Hi, everybody from Germany again. Knut is from Norway. Hello, Knut. He's a regular attender on the webinars. I get to know people's name, and I like Knut. It's a fantastic name. I always, have this vision of a kind of strong, Viking / Nordic warrior, coming from England as I do, and being many generations British. We've got a long history of that kind of stuff going on. Jose Zapata. Jose Zapata says hi as well. So hello, Jose, from Spain. And Antonio Zapata will be on later. Oh, he says it's his brother. Antonio says it's his brother. Hey, hello, Jose. Antonio's going to be on later, so you can pull faces at him. How's that? Hi from South Africa. Happy 30th birthday. Who can remember Kylix? Yeah, we're going to talk about that in a moment. Thiago Santos, one of our great devs in Brazil. Sorry, I was suddenly in a mental block. David Millington says, hello from Estonia. Not so snowy here, says David. Hello, David Millington. He's saying that in the private chat because I've got him on. Delphi is the continuation of Pascal. Yes, I think that's very true. The continuation of it was the evolving of Pascal. Lots of other companies did it. There was Apple Pascal and a few other things as well. But Delphi became the first definitive object Pascal that was successful, and we're still around 30 years on. Stefan, whose name I always spell with an A by accident. I'm sorry, Stefan. You'll see him later in some videos. He's trying to get Denmark on the map. So hello. Stefan, if it wasn't for the Danish, there would be no Delphi. Is that a fact? I think it is. So that's absolutely true. Anders is from Denmark. Hello from Russia. Hello, Helmut. How are you doing? I hope you're doing well. Hello from Kansas City. Wow, just up the road. Sorry about the Chiefs. I watched that game, and my brother-in-law lives in Kansas City, and it wasn't good, was it? So, and Jose says hi. He's back again. Hello from Syria, and finally, this is the last one I'm going to do for now. Others will be here forever. Inc. Brazil devs. Yes. You know what? I don't know what's going on in the water there, but there are so many Brazilians. It's getting a bit out of hand, but I love it. It's great. You go to Brazil, and it's like the heaven of Delphi. Like, you go to a conference, everybody there is super enthusiastic, and I explain why in the video later, but it is what it is. It's great. And Carlos Enrique, hello Carlos. He says happy 30th. Okay, so look, I'm going to stop for now. I've got some guests who are going to come up. Some of them have joined early. I did warn them it would be a little while before we started. Richard Hazel says Kylix is well represented in my background. Yeah, we all love Kylix. It's kind of absorbed into the kind of right RTL as it is, but you still see, if you look at the source code, you still see some things talking about Kylix as well. Ray spoke at the Delphi rollout in Seattle. It was full of C programmers. I always say this: if you use anything other than Delphi, it always seems like you're doing it the hard way. I know you expect me to say that because I work for Embarcadero, but I mean it. I think doing it in any other way is extremely tricky to do. Jens in Denmark, TikTok from Spain, again, another one, and Tim, one of my compatriots in Texas, from Cedar Park. And I'm going to mention it, Ivory Coast, Avidius, sorry, stumbled your name, but Ivory Coast. And will the next version of Delphi be called Brasilia? We've had a Rio. So there's a bit of a problem there, isn't there? It's we can't really go back. Anyway, look, enough talking from me. We are going to have a video now. It is pre-recorded, so we'll say hi to everybody that's there. Hello from Puglia in Italy. That's the special one for Marco Cantu. I'm sure we and there. And hello, Oren. Hello, Oren from Israel as well. Great guy, good developer. Got some very interesting tools as well. But what we're going to do, enough talking from me, enough chat. We'll answer on the chat as we go along. But we have a video to watch. It's 29 minutes long. It's pre-recorded. Some bits are going to be nostalgic. It's kind of a history of kind of developer relations, outreach, versions, and things like that. If I did a comprehensive one, we'd have a video that lasts hours, and we really don't have that length of time to do it. But after the video, we'll come back live to the studio. We're all here, and we will be answering questions in the chat as well. So feel free to ask some questions and talk to us, and we'll be there. Some of the guests you're going to be quite excited to see, because they don't often join in on webinars and things like that. So it's you'll know them, don't worry. But there we go. So enough from me. I'll be back in about 30 minutes with live guests. Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are in the world, in the country, whether you're watching a replay or watching this live. Much more fun live.
3 reasons why you should use Delphi today. These are the reasons why I use it. I'm Kivia Emerim, and I live in Brazil, and I have been working with Delphi for 14 years. Reason number 1. Easy for beginners. It looks like low code, but it's so much better. Reason number 2. Following market trends. Yes, you can use Delphi with cloud, with artificial intelligences, and transform your applications into a totally unique experience for your customers. Reason number 3. Developer community. There is a very strong developer community that creates new features and tools every day, and is very engaged in trainings and events around the world. And if you want to learn more about this community of developers and all the amazing things that Delphi can do, follow me, KeyDelphi, on Instagram page. See ya!
Greetings, programmers. This is Jim McKeith, and I just want to take a quick moment to personally invite you to DelphiCon 2021.
Hi, I'm Anders Olsen with Embarcadero Technologies.
I'm David Intersimoni, also known as David I, Vice President of Developer Relations and Chief Evangelist here at Embarcadero Technologies.
Hi, my name is Marco Cantu. I'm one of the Delphi gurus. I've written a number of books, start with Delphi 1, and I've used the product over the last 15 years, kind of on an everyday basis. I've written books, spoken at conferences, and done a lot of consulting and training on Delphi. Now I'm here to introduce you to the latest book I've written. That's the Delphi 2010 Handbook. It's a book focused on the new features of the product, so it doesn't go over the classic stuff.
Hi, Jim.
Hello. You have a lot of books and stuff behind you. I love it.
Sorry, I'm in my man cave. That was not the intention.
No. Go ahead and introduce yourself real quick, if you would.
Okay. So my name is Stefan Nyland, and I've been working with Delphi since the start. Actually, I think I have a Wasabi thing here, and that's I lost the disk, but this is from the 14th of June 94 actually. But before that, I was actually working with Paradox, and I'm an old product manager on the database stuff in Poland. But I always loved to work with Pascal, it's one of the first languages I learned, and yeah, it's Denmark, so we need to learn Pascal, and Poly Pascal was one of the first things I learned on CPM, so that was great.
Yeah.
But Delphi has been my favorite, and still is. I do a lot of other stuff, but I keep coming back to Delphi, and right now I spend at least 8 hours a day working with Delphi.
I'm Dalia Prašnikar from Croatia, Zagreb.
Fantastic. Now, you've been pretty active in the Delphi community for a long time and Delphi developer for a while. When did you start programming with Delphi?
Well, 1999, I think. I'm not sure. Delphi 4, I think. I used Turbo Pascal in high school, so this is my connection with Delphi, but I didn't start immediately.
I'm Stephen Ball, and I'm the Associate Product Manager here at Embarcadero for Interbase. If you want to catch up with me, or if you have any questions, then please do feel free to email me through. Just take down my blog here. Yeah, follow me on Twitter or catch up with me on my blog. There's some in-depth articles there taking us through the depth that I can't cover in a quick video here on change views and some of the extra capabilities around Interbase.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. I'm Jim McKeith, and joining me on one side or the other here is Ian Barker. Hello. And we've got our helmets on, so we're protected from Roman, or I guess not Roman invasion, barbarian invasion? I'm not sure.
Other civilizations, yeah.
Yes, other civilizations. Whoever it might be invading, we're ready to go.
I love Rad Studio because I love the object-oriented programming involved, as well as the nice GUI interface designer.
This is going to connect to the headset and then connect to the quadcopter and send the information back and forth. And then I have another app, actually, that Chris has running on Google Glass here that I'm going to bring up here as well. So actually tap the side and say, OK, Glass, show my thoughts.
OK, Glass, show my thoughts.
Did the app pop up?
Sure did.
OK, great. OK. So now, go ahead and think rotate right, and we'll see if this bar graph shows anything. There we go. See, it's picking up your thoughts to rotate right. That's good. That's really good. So now I'm going to tap this button here and connect to the quadcopter. And the quadcopter is going to pick up about 3 feet off the ground. Quadcopter is going to pick up about 3 feet off the ground and hover, and at that point, Chris is going to be in control and make rotate right. So if it rotate right, everybody can clap and applause and cheer for Chris here. So here we go. Here it's taking off. All right, so now go ahead and think about rotating right, Chris. There we go. That's Chris right there rotating it right.
You have hundreds of accounts for websites, apps, and services, and each one gets a password. Most of us take something easy to remember, our dog's name backwards plus the year of our first kiss, and use that for everything. Easy? Sure. Secure? No, not at all. If one account were to get compromised, your whole life could be turned upside down. The smart thing to do would be create a unique password for every account, right? Secure? Sure. Easy? No, not at all. So what do? Write them in a notebook? Sticky notes? Make up a song? No, what you do is use a super smart, super simple app called 1Password. With 1Password, all you need is one password. What the app does is collect all your unique passwords into one super safe place and locks them up behind something only you know, your 1Password. And it's integrated right there in your browser. So when it's time to log in, just click the button, enter your 1Password, and you're in. Here's another cool thing. You come to a new site that asks you to make a new account. 1Password will generate a new secure password for you and save it where it needs to go. Next time you want to go to that site, just hit the button. 1Password will do its thing, and you're in. And it's not just for passwords, it's for all sorts of information you need to keep safe. Bank numbers, credit cards, top secret ideas, files, anything. All locked up where no one can get to them but you, with your 1Password. And your passwords are with you wherever you are because your 1Password syncs automatically between every computer and device you own. So it's always up to date. No more sticky notes, no more dog names, just you and your 1Password.
Okay, so joining me live from the UK Dev Group, and I'm going to put the QR code up there, which I can now point to. And he does say at the moment it's not running HTTPS, so just click on the it's okay, it's safe, and go through it if it doesn't work. Is Jason.
Yeah.
How are you?
I'm very well, and we got the HTTPS working just in the last hour. So.
Oh, you did? Oh, well, let me edit that URL because I think my URL is not the HTTPS.
It's one of those things that's just over the horizon and has been for years and years. And on our monthly slide at the meeting, it's like, and this month we will be.
Konnichiwa, Ohio, and more importantly, yo. I don't speak any Japanese, but I thought I'd at least try and say hello in a little bit of a Japanese way. I do apologize. I'm sure I've said it wrong.
And joining us on the line, live from Costa Rica, is Carrie Jensen. There you go,
Hello,
Carrie.
welcome.
Hello.
Welcome, everyone.
Delphi.
Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you're joining us from. This is Jim McKeith, and welcome to the first of what I hope is many of our Delphi developer debates. Today, we are talking about free and nil. And the impetus for this was, oh gosh, I can't remember when it was, but I was doing a Q&A session with Nick Hodges, and he mentioned that he doesn't like free and nil, never uses it, no one should use it. And I thought, that's kind of interesting, an interesting topic. And I'm like, I use free and nil. I think that it has its uses, but maybe other people agree with Nick. So that's the purpose here today. Is we're gonna are brought together a number of MVPs. We have, looks like,
my opinion on free and nil is that you should write your code in such a way that it is never necessary. I don't say don't use it, because if you've written your code in such a way that it is necessary, then it's probably a very good idea to use it. You should never let anything at any time in your code be nil.
Hello everybody, here's André Lanussi from Embarcadero. I'm here today to explain how you configure your Delphi 2010 IDE to look like the same Delphi 7.
Introducing Delphi XE6. See what's new for VCL Windows development in Delphi XE6. Included are application tethering components, Windows taskbar components, a new set of VCL styles, and VCL sensor components. Extend your existing Windows applications to mobile without having to port your entire Windows application. Pick the features that make sense on mobile and easily interact with your existing Windows application. Connect your desktop VCL application to mobile apps created with FireMonkey. You can easily create mobile companion apps for your VCL Windows applications. For example, you can manage and update inventory of your warehouse database-powered VCL application that is tethered to a mobile companion app over Wi-Fi, or send and cast images from mobile companion apps to your desktop VCL or FireMonkey application. Introducing Delphi XE8, fastest connected app platform for Windows and beyond.
And welcome on to the webinar today. My name's Stephen Ball, and I'm going to be just kicking us off here as we find out what's new in Rad Studio 11.3 Alexandria.
I'll just kick us off here. We're just really excited to have you all here to introduce Rad Studio 12 from Embarcadero and Idera.
So today we are introducing Rad Studio 12.1 Athens.
Hello everyone, we're very pleased to be introducing Rad Studio 12.2 to you.
Olá pessoal, Anderson Gomes aqui, passando aqui para a gente manter esse clima aí de comemoração dos 30 anos de Delphi. Isso mesmo, são 30 anos dessa ferramenta incrível. Estava aqui me lembrando, primeiro contato com a ferramenta ainda lá na faculdade, em 2001, quando eu tive acesso ao Delphi 5. Aquela facilidade toda ali me empolgou de uma tal forma que eu nunca mais larguei a ferramenta. Minha história com Delphi ela tem muitos capítulos interessantes. Um que me marca muito foi a vinda do Marco Cantu aqui ao Brasil em 2014. Foi também o ano da minha primeira Embarcadero Conference, a primeira que eu fui palestrar. Conforme eu estava mencionando aí na época da faculdade, o meu pai me deu um livro do Delphi 5, a Bíblia, né? Dominando o Delphi 5, a Bíblia, escrito pelo Marco Cantu. E em 2014 meu pai veio a óbito em decorrência de um câncer, e aquele ano de 2014, no ato do falecimento do meu pai, eu acabei decidindo que eu não perderia mais as oportunidades de fazer algumas coisas que eu gostaria de ter feito até então. E a conferência sempre foi uma mira minha ali de, poxa, eu podia ter ido e acabei não indo. Em 2014 eu decido vir para São Paulo para poder participar da conferência. Um amigo fala assim, manda uma palestra, cara, você tem um monte de coisa legal no seu site. E aí eu mandei uma palestra, essa palestra foi selecionada pela equipe de seleção e a gente acabou entrando, né? Então a minha primeira conference foi também a primeira conference que eu vim palestrar. E passado alguns dias eu fiquei sabendo que o Marco Cantu viria ao Brasil, então eu peguei ali a Bíblia do Delphi 5 e levei para o Marco assinar para mim. Foi assim um ato muito importante na minha trajetória, né, que consolidou aí um capítulo que eu costumo dizer que é um capítulo do meu pai com o Delphi, né? Então fico muito feliz de estar aqui hoje, mesmo depois de todos esses anos, com a mesma alegria, o mesmo entusiasmo de compartilhar conteúdo com vocês. E fica aí o meu agradecimento a todos vocês que passaram pelo meu site algum dia, que assistem os conteúdos lá no meu canal e que estão aqui com a gente, fazendo da nossa comunidade cada vez mais pulsante aí. Um grande abraço a todos, um ótimo aniversário de 30 anos para todos vocês e que venham outros 30. Grande abraço pessoal, valeu, tchau, tchau.
Happy anniversary, Delphi. In '95, a couple of new magazines appeared. And one of them stated that, welcome to the revolution. These magazines do not exist anymore, but Delphi is still there. As you can note in the back, it has changed appearance a bit, and it's multi-platform. It's great to work with, do it on a daily basis, and it is my favorite go-to tool. On a second note, for those that haven't paid attention, remember the old conference days? There's still a lot of conferences around Delphi these days. This is a CD from the BorgCon conference in '95, but don't fear, you're still able to meet in the flesh. Let's have some fun at the newest Delphi conference, the Delphi Summit, and you might meet this guy in June. See you out there. Have fun for the next 30 years. Bye.
Well, wasn't that great? I get a little bit emotional because I've been using Delphi myself for 30 years, and it's a big deal. And like you saw in the video, so many people that use Delphi are really, really enthusiastic about it and passionate about it. And so, and the chat that we've got going on and all the rest of it is, it's really good. So I have some guests. So let's try and get this so that we can get some more guests on. Guests, if you could turn on your cameras. I think, let's see who we've got. Oh, wow, there's a whole load of people. Okay. All right, well, we'll start off with one of the people that was cited as being the inspiration for Landerson, and that is Marco Cantu. Hello, Marco.
Hi. Yeah,
There you
sorry.
go.
My mic was off.
We always have to start something with going, oh, sorry, I was muted. That is the tradition.
Sure. Yeah, I did it.
Thanks for joining us. And it's really weird, isn't it, to look back at all this stuff, oh my word, it's been around for so long, and look at how much we've all aged as well. Bless you.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I saw myself in the video, and was not even that. I mean, the video was not even that old.
No, there are older ones. We got some other guests as well. Let me see who else we got. Another colleague from Embarcadero, and that is Antonio Zapata. Hello, Antonio, who not only is he here, but he's got his brother in the chat as well.
Yes, he is. He's also a big Delphi fan. He's one of the reasons, actually, why I started learning Delphi.
Oh, look, he's got
what is
the
that?
Booth 702.
Oh.
Wow.
Yeah, it's the invitation to it was so the software development conference had a big book. I mean, like conference today, if you get a flyer with a calendar, you're like, it's a lot. They had a big book, like probably 50 pages, like magazine size, with all of the information. And this was holding it off. So it was like around it as the main thing at the conference. And then there was the invitation to attend the launch party. So the big booth, what was overly crowded, David can tell more because I was actually involved in it. But yeah, that booth was overwhelmed by people because they were showing the.
I never went to the booth. I actually sort of read about Delphi in a magazine, but it convinced me. I'm going to get some more people on as well. Another colleague. I'm going to start with colleagues first, and then we'll go to our guest. I apologise for jumping over someone. He knows who he is, don't you? But the next person is my colleague, who's a Brit as well, and that is Stephen Ball. Hello, Stephen.
Yeah, hi everyone.
Yeah, you featured in the video as well, and apparently I can get up to 10 guests. So we're going to try and see how this works.
It's never going to work.
Well, let's see. We'll give it a go and see how far we get. So another one who is no longer a colleague, but I'm going to put him on anyway, and that is another person who, the minute you say his name, everybody knows who he is. He is everybody's favorite ex-developer relations guy. Now he's kind of semi-retired, but he still can't resist doing lots of articles and blogs, and that is David I with his shirt on, of course.
Well, this is a very special shirt. If you can hear me, I'll get closer to my web camera. It's a tie-dye T-shirt I only bring out on very special occasions.
Well, it's the 30th birthday. Yeah, I look at that. That is awesome. I have a photograph somewhere of you and Anders. I think maybe Jim as well. All three of you were wearing the same tie-dye shirts. It was hilarious. You look like you've all come back from a Grateful Dead concert or something like that. It was hilarious.
Yeah, I still wear tie-dye every day, and I program with Delphi most every day now as a semi-retired software engineer. So
semi-retired. I forget. I always say retired, and no, semi-retired. Okay, well, let's pull in another colleague. I'm not sure if David is going to turn his camera on, but we will turn him on anyway. So joining us, yes, he is turning his camera on, and that is David Millington. Hello, David. How are you?
Hi, everyone. I'm great, thanks. And glad to see the original David here. You're looking fantastic.
Yeah, he's still going strong. He's making a fool of all of us by just going, yeah, I just code every day for fun, and it just like bangs out programs like they're nothing. It's incredible. And our final guest, I promise I don't have any more at the moment, so don't panic. And the last one is, I don't know how it's going to reorganize this script. It says up to 10, so I'm going to try to stretch the limits, and that is Richard Hatherall. Woohoo!
Hello.
Technically the only non-employee here. I think, David I is kind of
X, but
X, yeah.
But, he's an X. I'm a never been, but I'm.
You contribute a lot, so I wouldn't. I don't think anybody would. We literally, for the benefit of the guests, Marco and I have a regular meeting with Richard to discuss certain things. And we literally had a meeting 10 minutes before we went live on here. So, yeah, a lot happens behind the scenes.
I was surprised you didn't cancel it, to be fair. So, but anyway,
it is what it is, isn't it?
Out there.
Right. Well, look. Before we get started, there are a couple of things I want to call out because, as we get older and as we get unfit, a couple of people, actually in the last 12 months since we did this thing, unfortunately, we had a couple of people pass away, and one of them passed away, a great colleague of all of the employees here, and that was our representative in Germany, Matthias. And it was extremely difficult for many of us. I'd literally been in a meeting with him the day before. He was very, very successful, a very hard-working guy, and he literally, he actually died on February the 14th in the evening, actually. Very shocking, very unexpected. Nobody thought this would happen, and he passed away. So, from all of us, I think all of us have got very fond memories. I know when he passed away, I wrote, my job is to kind of do some of these official blog articles, and lots of people commented on the impact he'd had on their life. So, in memory of him, sorry that he's gone, and that's awful. And if that was bad enough, I don't want to bring everybody down, but unfortunately, life is what it is. We had another very important colleague pass away as well in the last 12 months, and that was Eugene Kryukov. Everybody who knew Eugene, as I said in the blog article, Eugene was effectively the father of FireMonkey and FMX. He invented GeoScene, FL Studio, and a few other things as well. Very, very talented developer. Extremely young as well to have passed away. It was a bit of a shock. we'd already just had Matthias pass away, and then unfortunately Eugene went a few months later as well. Massively unexpected. He invented FNX Linux and all sorts of things, and it was hard to deal with, but we're still here, but that doesn't make it any easier for all of us. So just to mention those two colleagues to make sure that we've done them justice, I think. So we're going to have a chat about a few things. I have grabbed a couple of images. David I might have some answers to this, because I want to, I'm not sure if he's got the answers, but David, can you explain why the Delphi 1 install screen looked like that, like a sports car? Do you know what the thinking was behind that? Maybe some of the others do, but it was actually, I always loved it. I thought it was really impressive. Kind of graphic for the time. I know it's a bit pixelated nowadays, but at the time it was cool. It was, installing the product it looked awesome.
Well, if you go back to some of the early Turbo Pascal days, you'll see Porsche cars in the ad. There was
I never did see.
There was the female police officer stopping the Porsche for going too fast, the Turbo Porsche. And then there was Speed Is Delphi video. That was one of the Delphi 1 videos as well, with racing cars, and there were other racing car genre type things. So, it goes back to the early days. And if you go back even before those ads, Anders Hallsberg and his partner Preben Madsen, that had the Compass Pascal in their own company in Denmark, that then, became a product inside of Borland. When they got a bunch of money by signing a deal with Borland, they both bought turbo Porsches. I forget which model, and very high end, very expensive. And for a while, if I remember correctly, they kept them in Germany, where they bought them, because if they brought them into Denmark, they'd have to pay huge taxes. So it goes way back, the idea of the cars and speed and speedometers and all of that stuff.
What is it about Denmark that they produce so many good developers? Because Anders I have to say, we did try to get Anders to be a little bit involved in this. It's up to him. I think Anders has moved on multiple times. He's doing other things, but we did see if we could get him to join. We thought it was probably an outside chance. He did take part in the 25th anniversary, I think. Is that right?
And the 10th anniversary as well.
Right. Yeah. Hey, it is what it is. But it's something about the Danish is that they just seem to produce good pastries and very good developers. I don't know whether the two are linked in any way.
Well, if you track the lineage of compiler and language developers, you go across the planet, of course, in the U.S. and in Japan with Ruby on Rails, with Ruby and Matsumoto-san and so on. So there's lots. Guido van Rossum, that's what's that? Netherlands, I guess. There, Python, and so on. So. Maybe it has to do with all of Scandinavia, because there was, lots of great computer scientists in Norway and so on as well in the early days. And maybe it's because it's just so dark during the wintertime. There's nothing else to do. Unless they all go down to Spain or South Africa or something.
They always said the Brits were like that because the weather was always so awful. Nobody ever wanted to go outside. As Stefan points out, Stefan, who appeared in two sections of the video, because he's a very what's the word I'm looking for? He's a very understated guy, Stefan. Because apart from the fact I always accidentally misspell his name with an A, but he does a lot more. He's crinkling stuff. Richard, is that you? I can hear crinkling of bottle tops, but he looked like a naughty schoolboy then. It was quite hilarious. But yes.
Maybe the bitmap had to do with this whole skeuomorphic, make something look like a human, accessible thing, and as opposed
Yeah,
to being
because
some
like
obscure part.
there were lots of apps at the time, like the original Apple stuff was all skeuomorphic as well. But yeah, I mean, as Stefan said, it's good developers but high taxes. Yeah, and as he says, Björn Strustrup as well is the other guy I mentioned as well. It is something about the Nordics. They're just pretty crazy. True, 180% taxation back then, says Jens. Really? 180% tax? No wonder they all wanted to go to America. Wow.
The tax on cars in Denmark was ridiculous. I lived over there for a year or so, and it was crazy. I ended up having to
I'm
borrow.
going there in April. I'm
Sorry?
doing a conference in April. I've been before. I like Denmark. I've been to Copenhagen. I'll tell you something interesting about Denmark, actually, in general. Copenhagen Hospital has a system installed there. I wrote it. It's entirely in Delphi, and it's the first time I found a language that had commas in the dates where you would not expect them to be. What is? They're just trying. Have you ever understood the Danish numbering system? No wonder they're so clever. It's like 5 20s and 6 4s, and it's like, what's that then? It's like, oh, that's 94 or something. What? How does that work? Yeah, I'm not surprised, but a very interesting country. And in there, Copenhagen University has an old Cray computer, and you can put your head inside the Cray computer. So it's
yeah, I think I've been there and had a look at that. We actually have we've got a load of customers that we've been to visit in Denmark, and I think one of them actually does a whole load of work with the 911, like the emergency services, all the vehicles, and managing all the cars and the interactions between those. And yeah, some really amazing stuff being done over there.
Yeah, I actually used to work for Dictaphone years ago, and they did the 911 systems in the UK. And actually, part of that was they had these graphic soundboards, and that was written in Delphi as well because I wrote it. So it's I've had a weird career. I've done all sorts of odd things. Okay, so let's just, because we've got a few questions or more comments and more than anything else. We've got people from Peru and everybody saying they wish they were 30 years old again. Well, yeah, don't we all? I think, yeah. Antonio here is probably the youngest by a good margin, but David's not that old.
I think David and I were both roughly the same age.
Really?
I don't want to say my age.
So, yeah.
I will never say my age, but I think we're roughly the same age.
Right. Okay.
I don't want to say either. I will admit I'm older than Delphi, though. Quite a bit more than I want to admit.
Well, Richard's also the other youngster amongst us. Stephen, I think, as well. So actually, when I think about it, in some ways, it's probably the older people, the odd ones out here. So that's a good thing. I mean, go to Brazil and you feel like something's very wrong with the world because they're all so young and dynamic and all the rest of it. So it's great. Let me pull up something to provoke a question. I mean, just to remind everybody, this is what the IDE used to look like when Delphi 1 first came out, and it was. I know to many people who are watching this, they're probably thinking, "Wow, that's super old-fashioned," but actually, for the era, it was pretty good. And I also spotted this. Not this. Sorry, hang on. See, no, they've got these tiny little previews. Let me just see if I've got the right one. Hold on. Yeah, this is from the Delphi Users Guide. And just to emphasize how far things have changed in the world, you'll see there that it says to install Delphi, start Windows if it is not already running on your computer. And of course, that was the era we lived in, that Windows was actually just an app on DOS. Kind of a complicated app, but you would have to type.
There is another interesting thing that I spotted in one of the early documentation, that I think for Delphi 1 there was an option to send support questions by fax machine.
Right. Yeah. I mean, can you imagine?
Well, it was modern at the time, but yeah.
Yeah, as David I is saying, he's got his new fax machine with him there. Yeah. I always find there's a couple of industries that still use fax machines, and I don't know how they get parts for it if it goes wrong, because does anybody sell fax machines now? But I thought they were all electronic.
I used to work in the shipping industry they relied, I don't know for sure now, but for a long time they relied a lot on fax. When I first started, they relied on telex, and then they all shifted to fax machines. And I did so much code in Delphi, of course, dealing with faxes and things. But yeah, it was.
Dictaphone had a museum because they started out as the Edison company, and they had the old wax cylinder recorders in the museum because they'd literally changed names over the years, but it was exactly the same. They were struggling against technology changing, and they had one guy whose only job it was to write to people when they saw a movie and someone said, "I'm going to use my dictaphone to record something," like a voice recorder. And they would write to them and say, "I want to remind you, it's a registered trademark, and there are other voice recorders available. However," it's weird world that we live in. So, yeah, I mean, we've had other installers. This is the Delphi 7 one, and of course, trying to pry Delphi 7 out of the hands of some developers is very difficult. And that's the weird thing is that, some versions of Delphi, they stick around forever, and you just can't get. People are like, "Oh, I love Delphi 7. I love Delphi 5." I spoke to someone the other day who was using Delphi 4. Wow. I mean, is it that is one of our biggest, issues? Really, is that Delphi programmers, we're very good at that backward compatibility, but also the programs are so rock solid that they just don't crash. Sorry if you can hear my dog barking; he's barking away in the background there. But they're rock solid. They keep going, and they never stop. So it's it's a bit of a problem, because people go, "Well, why should I upgrade if they're only doing something very blinkered and very narrow?" You can't use the BDE anymore on Windows. Come on, move on. It's
well, with virtual machines, you can have all the versions of Delphi readily at hand. And there are some very old systems. It's embarrassing sometimes to hear about some old US military systems that have 8-inch floppy disk software loading of data and so on. But that kind of thing happens.
Yeah, it's scary, isn't it? There's also the machines that are doing that quite often, like guidance systems or something. You think there really should be cutting edge stuff. I suppose if it isn't broken, then why change? It's just one of those things. But
we do have some customers who actually need to be able to run old systems. I know one of our customers does a whole load of stuff for the railway networks, and they have a whole load of SIL testing that have to go through to get things authorized to run on the network rail. And it even gets down to the point of specific types of hardware running, because then the program running on that hardware behaves in that way. We actually had a few years ago, one customer had to order a stack load of Pentium motherboards, and they had a shipping container just to put all these motherboards in, because they needed to update some they needed new hardware to go out on trains. It took that much to update it. It was crazy. But
I just noticed as well, I have to say, in the background of Richard Hatherall there, I noticed that he has got quite a lot of different versions of Delphi. But do you hoard them or something? I mean, I expect it from Marco, because Marco has got the whole.
I have. Oh, sorry, right here. I have two, Delphi 1 and 5. The reason I have 1 is because it's 1. And the reason I have 5, that box of Delphi is signed by the entire dev team. Yeah,
really?
It was a special present for the Spirit of Delphi Award. I don't know, it's hard to see, but you see there, it's signed by a bunch of people.
Well, don't let people know that, otherwise they'll be asking for it in the future.
Yeah, here, so all of the people in the team who end up signing the box.
So Richard,
that I keep as a very, very special.
Have I got a signed box?
Yeah.
Yes.
No, I don't.
You cannot compete with that.
I can't compete with that. I actually have a completely sealed Delphi.
Oh wow, that is sealed. That is interesting.
I bought it because I was going to go as my own sort of business
Yeah,
side of
this
things.
one is a big crack, but it has all of the original content.
That's quite
But
cool.
by the time I did it, Delphi 4 was out, so I never had to open it.
Look,
Oh,
see
the
now,
big box. Oh, I have
David
that as well.
turning up with the bumper box.
That was like 23 kilos. It was the entire Windows API printed in print, like thousands and
what we should
thousands of
do?
APIs, like all in print. So yeah.
Kylix. See, I had
Kylix.
Kylix as one of my screen things here as well. I'm just going to close this thing because there's a support window that keeps popping up.
Sorry to bring a Borland C++ box out, but
That's fine.
No. David Millington's very
I'm sure that David is thrilled. Yeah.
I couldn't help myself, but there you go, David. That's the
I swear.
weightlifting. When I want to work out, I just pick that box up and wave it.
Well, I swear, once we've done the
see,
he's got the Kylix little soft toy as well. You've got
On
all
the London Kylix launch event. So
yeah. I think I went to that actually, if I remember. But I have to say, don't panic. We will be doing C++ webinars, and we actually do them anyway. And David Millington does a lot of blogging about them. But the only reason this is Delphi focus is just because it's Delphi's 30th. We are going to. I do try and say Rad Studio when I talk about the product because it is both. It's you get the choice of doing things in different ways. I personally still think C++ is a very hard thing to do, but it's also it's like the difference between being a watchmaker and buying a cheap digital watch. If you want it to work and you don't want to pay a lot of money and you want it quickly, but it's going to break and it's going to be a bit, it's not as accurate, then Delphi could be the metaphor there versus C++, which is the watchmaker's preciseness. Oh, I have to have a pointer and it's got to be exactly this. However, it's a very imperfect metaphor because they're both very solid systems. And personally, I never ever found a problem with Delphi. So, what can I say? But I
was going to strongly disagree there. I think they're both very capable.
That's what I mean. But what I was saying was that, the people that you want to use C++ use it for some very specific reasons. And that is about preciseness, accuracy, controllability. It's the Swiss Army knife of languages, but also it is the surgeon's knife of languages. And Delphi is a more specialized tool, I think, in that respect. But anyway, am I digging myself out of the hole, or am I still? Oh, there you go.
That's where you're ladder.
Moving on. So, my name's Ian, and I'm the ex-head of development.
The software engineer in me has to always try to achieve preciseness. And so I was very careful in my blog today to talk about celebrating the anniversary of the launch of Delphi 1. Because as Gary Wizen, the head of the team, reminded us all that they finished Delphi 1 and then drove up to San Francisco and got ready for the launch, and Anders demonstrated it to standing ovation, and then they had to go back to the office, and because they had a stop ship bug and they had to update Delphi, and so the date stamp on Delphi 1 for the release to manufacturing is actually tomorrow, February 15th, 1995. So, but it's okay to say, okay, Delphi was released, but it turns out it was launched.
But we paused. Yes, exactly.
And we used to, in the early days of Borland, we would have a launch party, but a bunch of us would go over to the warehouse to help package and shrink wrap the products to help the operations people, because there's always such a demand. And that goes back to the early days of Turbo Pascal as well. And so we used to sit there and stack the pieces together and put them in the box and put them on the conveyor belt to go through the shrink wrap machine. And that was always fun to see the final really thing. And I think sometimes a few of us wrote little notes on the boxes as well. before they were shrink wrapped, just for fun.
I
and even Philippe Kahn would answer questions because of the load of things going on in developer support when some of the early products were released, just to help out. People didn't believe that Philippe was actually on the phone talking to them. So
it's like when Marco answers an email, they think, God has descended from the heavens. Like, he does actually work for the company. He's just like a figurehead, Yeah, she's got a role. Same with David Millington as well. It's funny because I worked at a software house around about that time as well. And I remember we also had disk duplicating equipment, it was like a caddy thing. And if every time you issued some software, you had to churn out all these disks. And I would say, maybe one day, just for a celebration, we should take Rad Studio and put it on 3.5-inch floppy disk. However, the only problem with that is I don't think there's enough 3.5-inch floppy disk made in the world still for us to do that, because it would probably be several hundred or more. So how big is the installer now?
You could probably get the Bootstrap installer on it to then load the rest from the web,
Well, no, that won't be good. No, you need to have the ISO split out.
Yeah, can you imagine? And one disc goes right. It's always like disc 7 or disc 12 stops, and it goes, and you're like, oh no.
Delphi 1 was 15 floppy disk images. 5.25.
Oh, really?
3.5-inch floppy disk images.
That's actually, I would say, that's not that much really for that time, because we used to ship a product around then that was written in Visual Basic, actually, I think. And that shipped on at least 10 or 12 discs as well. It was the same thing. I'm glad those days are gone. I remember, once the internet came out, I went to a demonstration once where they demonstrated DSL, as it was. And before, it was still dial-up internet at the point. And it was British Telecom demonstrating DSL. And we thought they were lying because they had this download on a dial-up thing, and then they showed DSL, and it could download at a huge speed of 128 KB or something like that per second, which was, nowadays we'd all be thinking our internet's broken. And it's amazing how the world has changed. And yet, the thing that I find very frustrating is you still get these people that go, "Oh, Delphi's still around." And do you walk around with your eyes closed? I mean, it's very frustrating that there is that perception that in some way, Delphi passed away. I get it. I know, in the late 90s and early 2000s, there was a much broader user base. But we are currently number 9 in TOBE, as I said before, and things are doing that. It's a gradual climb. We're working hard to make it happen. But not only is it around, but as I showed in the video, there are some very capable apps out there that people go, I didn't know they were Delphi users. And you go, yes, they are. And that's our big problem, is that we're very good at the programs that you produce just work. They don't need, oh my God, I've upgraded Windows from Windows 10 to Windows 11. So what? The app goes, I don't care, I'll just carry on working. And people don't appreciate that is actually a significant advantage when you're rolling out to a corporate environment, or even just to end users. If you've got 10,000 end users and a Windows update suddenly means that your app doesn't work, you've got a problem. And that's not the case with Delphi. It works. I mean, if you use runtime packages, then you're asking for trouble. But when it's built in, it's fine. So I wanted to point out, Ray is in the questions. He's watching on YouTube. Hello, Ray. We'll say hi to Ray. A very well-known face. Ray, I'm sorry I didn't get you on. I just assumed you'd be super busy, so I didn't send you an invite. But Ray is always is probably one of the figures. Him and Dr. Bob is another guy. I think most of us recognize those names from the past, but Ray is very much around. Actually, so is Dr. Bob. I saw him last year in Amsterdam. But Ray is a very active, very engaged guy, despite also working a very demanding job as well. And he's a big Delphi fan. So just a call out from me personally to say, well done, Ray. I think a lot of us have seen the demos he's done and the talks he's done about components and styles and things like that, and he taught me things. I mean, David, Marco, and the others have all taught me things as well. But Ray's definitely one of those people that he's worth pointing. He's another guy. He's very understated. He just does stuff and gets on with it and goes again. You know, it's not like me, a big drama queen and running around and making noise. But that is kind of my job. So you know. What have we got? David Cornelius, who's an MVP, said he used Turbo Vision a bunch, tried it out, but gladly switched to Delphi when that came out. I mean, that was the thing. You know, one of the questions I was going to ask the guests here was, what was the first version you used? I don't think David counts because I think we all know he knows what version he is. But if I go clockwise on my screen, yeah. So, Marco, what was the first version you used? I think it was 3, wasn't it?
I mean, in terms of Borland product, like Turbo Pascal 3, most likely. But in terms of Delphi, I think I got a build like roughly 9 months before release was the first beta. I know exactly the first time I saw it. That was exactly 1 year before. I mean, exactly not the date, but 1 year before at the same conference, Software Development West. I had a meeting with Michael Hyman, that was the C++ product manager, and because I was actively working on OWL, the big, actually very nice class library for UIs that Borland had at the time. So we had a long chat because I was telling him, yeah, it's great, but I mean, you should make it like a bit more visual because it's fantastic. You have all of the classes, all of the code, but it's difficult for people to catch it up. And so he told me, yeah, let me show you something. And there was actually Zach Urlacher also in the room, and he showed me this, and I was like, oh, I was blown away. And that was about a year before Delphi was released. Now, then I think I got a beta like a few months after. I don't remember. And then there was the Borland conference, I think around June, where they were starting showing some of the stuff to the public. I mean, there were NDA sessions, whatever. You had to sign a paper, and yeah.
You're pretty covered by the NDA.
I started working on it, and then I worked. I mean, well, yeah. I basically decided, hey, I quit my job. I'll work on this stuff, and yeah. And a few months after Delphi shipped, I had a book out, and that was 1,500 pages. Like I mean, insane. I mean, you can't write a book that big, but hey, I did. So, whatever.
Well, you know, a lot of people know you from the books first before.
I know.
Yeah. And I mean, I still get people where if I go anywhere and you're not there, because quite often you and I are at the same places, but they always go, oh, you know, Marco Cantu, his books were so good, and blah, blah, blah. And but we, you know, there's a new person I'm considering to be an MVP, and he's written 5 books about Delphi. And I didn't, to be fair, I hadn't seen his books before, but I've looked at them. They're pretty good. And they're about recent versions as well. There are quite a lot of authors out there. I must also mention, before I ask Antonio a similar question, Boyan, who actually comes to every single webinar we do, Boyan Maitov. He's got those great components that do IoT things. And he says, a strange coincidence, he started creating Visuino, which is an IDE for the IoT stuff, and it was a very good one as well. He created Visuino 10 years ago on the same day. And as he said to someone in another question, it's completely written in Delphi. So it might not be, you know, it might be a kind of IDE that is you know, would we normally talk about other IDEs? Are there any others? But, you know, this one's a very specialized one. So Boyan, great friend of the language. And I like Boyan as well. He's an MVP in Tech Partner. So I called him out. So Antonio, what was the first one you used? I mean, you probably, I'm not going to insult you, but I suspect you were probably too young to use Delphi 1.
Yes.
Yeah,
I mean,
yes, I thought so.
Going after Marco, my story is going to be quite boring in comparison. So for me, it was Delphi 7, which is a bit of a cliche, really. but it was my first version. And
I'm surprised you're not still using it, because it really bugs me how many people go, oh yeah, I still use it for some project.
That's the thing with this community. I think it's one of the very few communities that people actually brag about using a very old version of something, because you wouldn't hear anyone saying, yeah, I still make websites with Dreamweaver or something like that.
Oh yeah, exactly.
But
I know people that do.
Yeah. But yeah, for me it was Delphi 7. Delphi 7, even though I studied programming using Java primarily, but my first job, they were using Delphi 7. And I remember that blew my mind, primarily the form designer, about how quickly I could create functional applications in literally a few hours. And I could connect everything that quickly. And then
I mean, the magazine article I read said that, and I thought, well, it sounds like it. But I was a VB guy at the time, and I was good at it. I asked a lot of questions on the forum. If you Google the old Google groups, you'll see me on Usenet being described as a VB guru, a Visual Basic guru, which is hilarious when you think about it. And back in the day, and I'm talking like the very early versions of Visual Basic. 3 was probably the first one that was any good. In my opinion, but as soon as I saw Delphi, I went, that's all the things that Visual Basic isn't, you know, in a good way as well. So yeah, it's good. David Millington, what are your kind of thoughts on Delphi? What did you start out with? Was there? I mean,
I started. I mean, my first born product was Turbo Pascal 5.5, I think, but it was Pascal 7 when I really got into it. And then quickly moved up to Delphi. But I have to admit, due to my age, that was not professional use at that time. First time that I really used Delphi as like something approaching that was final year of university, where we had some, we had a computer science course, and obviously you do a lot of theory in a computer science course, but I think one of the valuable things about that was that they really focused on the practice and techniques of developing as well. So we had to build teams and develop real software for real companies. Had like a trade show fair, and they picked us and we built stuff for them. I ended up writing kernel driver to do filtering, network filtering, and my colleagues in there were using Delphi 7 to build the UI for it. And because I'd used Delphi before, it was sort of like a, could give a bit of a hand there. And yeah, that was the first real sort of semi-commercial, real kind of use of it, I think. Fantastic. And like, I know it's completely off topic for education, but it's a wonderful mix to have like theory and like that, and then spend a full year at university doing
we are trying to get, we are trying to push very hard to get the universities and colleges to adopt Delphi. It's an uphill struggle. The problem is IBM kind of died away and focuses on some random deep thought nonsense now. They're trying to create, the deep thought computer from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I'm sure that's what they're doing. But it used to be nobody got fired for buying IBM, and now it's nobody gets fired for buying Microsoft. It's just the choice that, safe pair of hands choice. And that's kind of woolly thinking, really, that is difficult for us to fight against, because, they're very successful as a name. And sometimes, actually, unfortunately, I don't want to sound bitter and twisted, but they're not always the best tool for the job. We are, and it's true. Why would you write a Java program, a visual, not visual, Swift program, and all these other things, when you can just go in a FireMonkey, go click, click, click. I've done it in so many webinars. Here's an app that works on both systems, and I just think it's just, if you do it any other way, it's doing it the hard way. But there you go. Anyway, that's my feelings. So Richard, because I'm going to go around to Stephen next, and then we'll ask David about his experience, because I think David's is going to be a unique one for most of us. So, what was your experience of Delphi? And I mean, when you saw it, was it like a light bulb moment, or did you get forced to use it in college?
I actually got forced to
school or wherever you were at the time.
The thing was, so I'd just been at college doing, IT or whatever, and I went for some summer experience for a company, and they actually invited. They said, if you've got no plans after the summer, do you want to, if you're not planning to, you don't really like the education thing, maybe you don't want to go into university, come and we'll train you. We think you've got something. So I was like, yeah, that's great. I'd just learned Visual Basic at college, and I was all about, let's get our Visual Basic. And when I showed up, they then said, oh yeah, we've got some consultants in to choose our direction. Now we have a lot of Paradox databases, so they think we should use Delphi, which is a brand new thing sort of out. And I was like, oh, I'm not sure I want to do this. And they said, no, just go with it. And after 6 months, I was so glad I did. It was one of those fork in the road moments in life where you're like, if I chose to not do that and go and find a job in VB, I doubt I would have had as much fun. And I didn't know that until after the fact.
When I was working in Visual Basic, it did some very cool things. There was a thing called Send Keys, and I worked at a software house that wrote a very big desktop publishing package and a very popular graphic design package. Pressworks was the program, and the wizards were written in Visual Basic, and they wanted to stop shipping that because it added a lot to the downloads that had just started. And so I did a demo that did it in Delphi, and it was tiny, in comparison, because at that time it still wasn't common for Windows to have the Visual Basic runtime on a PC. Of course, the reason that .NET works is because every PC has had .NET dumped onto it, and so yes, your executables can be smaller because they're basically almost like P code.
The answer to the version question is technically I learned on Delphi 1. The consultants who came in to do the training, who also they said to us, look, Delphi 2's out in a couple of months. If you sign an order now this was definitely dodge, but they were like, if you sign an order now for Delphi 2, we'll just skip past that. We'll install Delphi 1 now on some machines so you can learn it, and we won't mention it.
This sounds a bit shady. I don't know whether we want to talk about that.
It was very shady, but yeah, it was one of those things where I got to, I only actually ever did real work in Delphi 2 onwards. But it was like they were just like, oh, we'll help you here,
Yeah, I must call out as well Dr. Kevin Bond's comment there. Kevin appears regularly at some of our code camps and things like that. He's great educator. Yeah, David I's giving him a thumbs up. So am I. Love Kevin, based in the UK, really smart guy. And he is in the educational sector, so I'm going to take what he says at face value. We're not here to knock Microsoft. They're a great company. We actually do interact with them on many levels, and business is business and competition is competition. But he says Microsoft fund a lot of university research so they get to influence what programming language are taught. I don't know if that's true, but that's fair enough. I mean, if they're going to fund, then maybe that's fine. But don't teach them to use.
Kevin is also a fellow member of the UK Dev Group, which obviously I'm honor bound to mention.
I featured them in the video, and the little QR code that was in the video. Someone scanned that because it tells me when it's scanned. And someone scanned it. I'm like, oh my god! I didn't know they worked this long after the event, but there you go. It's great. And then probably Stephen, what are your kind of reminiscences of your Delphi journey, shall we say?
Oh, blimey! So, I originally did some Pascal programming when I was at college, and although I wasn't doing computer studies at the time, I used to help out the computer studies students quite a lot because I was in the labs typing up a lot of homework and bits. And then when I kind of graduated, I was working for a leisure management software company, and they were using Delphi for the program. Everything was going from DOS to Windows at the time. And I was like, hold on, I know all this stuff, and you're getting paid 3 times what I'm getting paid. I think I'm going to be changing what I'm doing here. And yeah, so Delphi 3, and then we did that for probably about 6 months. And then we went over to BallCon, and I think Delphi 6 was probably just coming out then. But they didn't want to move straight onto the latest. They went on to Delphi 5, and we were stuck on there for a very long time. But then moved up to have Delphi 7 running alongside it when we needed some SOAP web services running, sharing code back and forth between versions. And then when things migrated further, and we had there's a number of changes with .NET around how it's handling SOAP. We ended up having code that was shared between Delphi 2010 and Delphi 5, if you can imagine it.
Yeah, I had that at a company. I worked at one software house where they had 3 versions of Delphi in use for the same product.
Yeah.
And yes, it was as bad as it sounds. And they had inheritance between forms and things like that used in different versions of Delphi. I'd say it was not a good experience, but it's
amazing the flexibility of the language and the framework, which allows you to be able to kind of do some of those things and to work around. And we've never kind of hit a barrier trying to connect to anything. I think at one point I had just the standard the standard software of writing was processing millions of pounds worth of back payments every month. It was connected up to card printers, cash machines, lighting systems, golf ball dispensers. You name it. It was so much you could connect up to. We never hit a problem being able to connect to anything.
Airport. I mean, that does kind of go back to. And by the way, I'm putting out David I's blog there. Go to blog.davideye.com and you'll see his latest post there. And he's also posted on blogs.embarcadero.com. It actually, you mentioned about programs written in Delphi. The good version of Skype, when it worked and didn't go wrong, was written in Delphi. And I mean, I'm sure that they've probably still got some little bits of them there that go, I wish it was still in Delphi, because it's got a few bugs. I'm sure there could have been bugs in the Delphi version later if they carried on with it. I'm not going to say that wouldn't be possible, but yeah, I think we all just fondly remember the days when Skype was rock solid. You used to have a tiny little phone, and it was a Skype phone, and that was its main purpose. And it was going from there. Marco's going to have to go in a bit. I will come to David I in a second, because I suspect that we've got all of us want to hear a few things, and same with David Millington as well. But Marco, are there any final words from you? Is there anything that you would say, given, and Stephen says he's also going to have to go as well, so that's probably a good thing. No, I'm joking. But Marco, is there anything that you want to kind of say before you depart?
Yeah, I mean, it has been a fantastic journey for 30 years, and it's going to continue. So it's not solely the end of the journey, as we've been saying. Of course. It's been a lot for me. So, and it's been a lot for many of the people I see online and chatting and asking. The product is actively being worked on, with great news coming up very soon. So stay tuned for announcement and things that are going to change. I mean, Delphi, the Delphi 1 IDE was a 16-bit IDE. From Delphi 2 to Delphi 12 has been a 32-bit IDE, and we know maybe something's going to happen in the future around that. So yeah. So again,
David is putting his hands up, going,
oh sure. We don't know, but
no, nothing. Who knows? No idea what Mark is talking about.
This does come up occasionally, and I'm going to just call it out just before we carry on, because I know Stephen's going. David, are you going soon, or are you staying around? Or David Millington, you're staying, are you, for now?
I can stick around for a bit for sure.
Yeah, okay, all right. So Stephen Ball and Marco are probably going about. But I just want to call out one particular thing, because this does come up every now and again, and that is about roadmaps. People always say, oh, there used to be roadmaps, and so does a roadmap. all of us here, I think we can say this without being in trouble. We would like to be able to publish roadmaps. It would, in some ways, I think. On some level, I think a roadmap's nice. It gives people a kind of sense of well-being that they think that they know what's going to happen because you put it in a roadmap. The reality is that roadmaps don't always work like that unless you're very non-specific about features. But actually, our parent company, Idera, are based in many different markets around the world, and they have investors and they have shareholders and people like that, and lots of regulations around the world. And I've mentioned this before. They cannot make certain types of forward-looking statement. They can't make blasé, yeah, the next version's gonna be entirely in French and it'll program for you because you'll plug a thing in your head or something. They can make any statement they like, but the thing is, there are legal ramifications for saying something which you later then withdraw from, even for good reasons. That someone will come along and say, no, you put it in writing, you said it was going to happen, and now we want it to happen, otherwise we're going to sue you. And so I get that. I get that that's Idera's kind of, as a policy, we don't do roadmaps, and I understand. And I know that customers don't, that's fine. But me personally, I would like some roadmaps. I know some of us would do it. Make our lives as the PMs and DevRel a lot easier to go, here's a roadmap, and then we wouldn't get asked questions again. But that's just the way Idera is, and they've got their own good reasons for it. So yeah, roadmaps not going to happen anytime soon.
Yeah, but stay on the product, stay on subscription. Yeah. You can get betas. You can
pay attention
get ideas of what's happening.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
And, okay, and with that,
yeah,
say
you're
hi.
Going. All right, see you then.
Okay, thanks. Bye. See you soon.
I was going to say I think it's great that we have the subscription model now. When you get an update subscription and move things forward, you mentioned earlier, Ian, about how robust Delphi is, or REST-Studio is, at just keeping working. A big part of that is actually helped by the consistency in the Windows API that's been around for a long time, because that is a big part of what helps keeping apps moving forward. And that's a very different thing to how things work on the mobile landscape. And having the update subscription means we can keep getting the updates to the APIs as they shift constantly on mobile out to customers and moving forward, because that
we're
is
ahead of the curve quite often. I know a couple of times we were kind of behind the times, but the last time, 12.2, we were ahead of the curve with Android, I think, when there was a requirement. And I know, people sometimes don't spot the good things because they're too busy complaining about something that they feel like we've wronged them. I get it. I make a point of giving my email address out and saying, contact me, happy or sad, contact me. We're not a black box. You see all these people here, you know who they are. I mean, Richard's not an employee, so you get a free pass for these, but contact us and tell us what you're not happy with, but tell us what you are happy with as well. Just in case we've got a little plan to change something, you go, oh no, don't change that. It happens, yeah. All right, Stephen, you're going to go, aren't you? But
yeah.
I want to thank you for joining. You did turn up a few of these, but many people don't realise that he works very hard behind the scenes as well. He's a good guy. He gets involved in a lot of things, and him and I talk very regularly. We're in meetings quite often together as well, I think.
Yeah, I might not be quite as much out there putting my face around as I actually used to, but I'm kind of pulling a lot of strings behind the scenes now for a lot of the teams. So
nobody can shut me up. That's really it.
Before I do go, just one thing I'd like to kind of leave on. I was mentioning about the update subscription stuff being really powerful, but I think one of the things that we've heard a lot of really good feedback from is how that's helping us bring new features and new capabilities within the releases rather than having to wait for major version changes, and how that's helping developers get the latest stuff, but also new stuff without breaking the existing code and component sets that they're working on, benefiting from all that stuff coming through, and that produces a much richer and responsive result from what the team can deliver out. So it's really cool to kind of see that kind of situation with Rad Studio. And if somebody told me when I started writing with Delphi 20 odd years ago, that, well, it's more than that now, isn't it? Yeah, that I'd be producing apps that could go in the app stores and everything else like that. Yeah.
Oh, your go-kart thing, didn't you? You had that was a good app.
Got to the top of the iOS and Android app store for paid sports apps. Yeah. Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Good job. Yeah, it was a good app. I downloaded it. I think I paid for it as well.
Yeah.
When I think about it. But
one set of tires for my son at least, anyway. So
there you go. Yeah, it's good. Well, thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Everybody. Take care, everyone.
You know, it's good to have you on. All right. And we'll carry on. And now, I did say I'd give David I a chance to have his say as well, because, you know, we don't often have that. David I was there. You were there at Christmas time, or at the what do we call it, the seasonal event. But I mean, you were there really, I think, at kind of formative time. Really, you must remember pretty much seeing people coding Delphi 1. I mean, is that right? You
So,
or am I imagining it?
No, well, I should say I started learning Pascal in 1972 in university. Wrote my first programs using an ASR 33 teletypewriter connected to the California State University CDC cyber time sharing system. So I would type in little Delphi Pascal programs. That was back then. And then from there, I moved into all sorts of other compilers early on for the language Pascal, including Digital Research's Pascal, Microsoft's Pascal, UCSD Pascal, Apple Pascal, Mac Pascal. It was my world with Philippe Kahn and Anders Heilsberg, Gary Wizen et al. Started when Philippe gave me Turbo Pascal 1 floppy disks at Comdex Las Vegas trade show in November of 1983, gave me an 8-inch Z80 CPM floppy disk and a 5 1/4 inch Intel
CPM.
86.
Wow.
Yeah,
I use that.
Yeah, 5 1/4 Intel PC DOS floppy disk. We had a 2 floppy drive IBM PC in our meeting room in the booth, and I stuck the floppy disk in and booted up, and there was Turbo Pascal. Played with it and said, "This is unbelievable." Philippe didn't care about software distribution. I was working for a company then, and so he continued on down the road, giving out and trying to sell some of the Turbo Pascals. I was an early member of the Pascal user group back in the mid-1970s. We had meetings and newsletters that went out, and then I was a member of the Turbo user group up near Seattle, Washington. Oh, sorry.
No, you're still there.
Spammer. Then I
curse of the modern age. That's what it is.
So then I joined Borland in June of '85, and did lots of things to help the company along the way. There were lots of very early Delphi development and Delphi builds. There was a specific seminal moment when the team could build and successfully run a first simple Delphi application, with a button, edit box, and list box, and so on, which became the sort of standard first demo to build. I don't remember the exact date of that. Charlie Calvert was working with me in developer relations. He wrote his first book, Turbo Pascal Programming 101, and was a member of the technical support group. And I went down and would visit with him and said, "Oh boy, I got to have this guy work with me in developer relations." He was so great at presenting and demonstrating and writing about things. And Delphi and Charlie also worked on his first Delphi Unleashed book during the whole development of Delphi, as well as help the documentation team with a lot of things about Delphi programming samples, the VCL, the language, and so on. the first sneak peek, even though there were NDA meetings throughout sort of the early part of June to show it to customers and some developers. The first sneak peek publicly was at the Borland Conference in June 1994 in Orlando, Florida, at the Dolphin and Swan Hotel, where Zach gave a sneak peek of Delphi in a breakout session after Paul Gross did the language keynote, where talked about the shipping products, Borland C++ and Borland Pascal. We were still having to sell products at the time. But the decision was made before we went to what we called Borlando, was to finally start showing Delphi publicly, and also privately in meetings. And it was at that session that Bill Dunlap also talked about exception handling, and Marco did some talks on object windows and some other things in C++ track. After that conference, Ray Konopka was allowed to write an article for PC Techniques magazine in the October-November 1994 edition that was titled Introducing Delphi 95. It didn't have its name, final name yet, but that was what we were using in some of this. And so Ray was, I believe, if not the first, one of the first, although maybe Ray Stevens and some others wrote some things because they were at the conference in Orlando in June. So that's sort of a lineage of how we got to before the launch of Delphi. At the same time, I was traveling, still selling, products that we were shipping today, or at that time before Delphi 1 was formally launched and shipping. So I had sort of two worlds to do, keep selling things and traveling and showing the stuff while the team was working really hard in Scotts Valley in the Borland campus. And so I talk about some of that in my blog post, as well as pictures of the extended team. If you look at the 7 core team members that are in the about box of Delphi 1, where you go alt developers, capital developers, but then if you tap alt, hold down alt and hit TEAM, you'll see the 226 names of people who were part of the extended team that crossed the whole company, including on the database product side because of the BDE and SQL links and all those things that were part of the things you could build with Delphi 1 Standard Edition, or just Delphi 1 and Delphi 1 Client Server Edition, or I guess it was Delphi and Delphi Client Server, as we talked about them in the fact sheet. So there was a lot of people who have gone on to do wondrous things in our industry. Some are semi-retired and or retired, and unfortunately a few of the names that are on that scrolling list. I put an animated GIF so
Pavel,
you can see
for example,
those. You can see all the people over the history of Delphi who are still in our hearts and in our minds. From the original list, Danny Thorpe is one that comes to mind, and wrote the article about the Delphi name, why the Delphi name. So Danny was a very special person in many ways, and we miss him as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a few like him that have passed away. I mean, Pavel was another one who was very prominent.
Yep.
And for those that have not seen this book, and shame on you if you haven't, because we really tried to make sure people knew about it. But by Marco Kaiser, I can never say his name. I'll call him Marco G because I'm a useless British American who can't pronounce his name. But the book is Pioneering Simplicity. And it is about those days, the fascinating history of Delphi and Pascal. GDK, the people that do that Delphi Summit as well. I know they've considered David Icke going over to the Delphi Summit. I don't know whether they've spoken to you at all about it, but they mentioned.
I've been talking with Marco on email, and I told him I said, here's some things I could talk about if I was there, but I haven't. Still talking with my wife, and then Roland Appel in Embarcadero, Germany, also wanted me to do something at the Econ in I think it's in September maybe or November, I forget. But for me it's what keeps me young. I wrote my first program 56 years ago in Fortran. So and this June, a week after that Delphi summit, I'll turn 74. So for me, programming keeps me young. It keeps me alive. I always said one of the things about programming, and now that we have these computers, we don't have to lug around. We can carry them around, these nice light notebooks and so on. That you can program anywhere. That's the great thing about software. You can program at the beach. I don't have a ruggedized or waterproof, but I suppose it'd be great if I programmed while I was scuba diving, for example. But that would be kind of strange, I think. But
I like the Chromebooks. I'm a big fan of Google Chromebooks, and that is a device that you can run Android apps. And I'm actually, I think, supposed to be doing a session showing Android apps running on that. But it's interesting stuff.
I got Delphi apps running on my Android tablet, and I've got them running on a Chromebook and my apps in the App Store on my iPhone. It builds on top of what something Marco did a few years back about processing RSS feeds of articles or other kinds of things. So I this one called the Ashland News Dispatches uses RSS feeds for all the news sources and bloggers around my Ashland, Oregon area in Southern Oregon. And it lets you look at all or just today's news, and then click and flip to the browser window for that article. So I don't scrape the articles or do anything weird with them. I just put up a list box and you tap on the article and it does it. And then you can use ShareSheet to send the article that's in the browser to via text message or via email to people, or Dropbox or whatever's on your sharing system. So the things you can do in Delphi, and I know David M. will smile that there's a bunch of us that also can't wait to have the wonderful beauty of having C++ building multi-device applications as well. But I'm a patient person. I mean, I've been around a little while, so there you go. But it's all just fun. I miss everyone, but I don't miss the long flights and the travel and the immigration lines and so on. I've had so many great experiences and friends with partners and customers and friends of Delphi and friends of all the developer tools all over the planet, except where it's like dangerous to go to. So
people always say to me, "Oh, you're so lucky because you get to go to the conference in Brazil, and you get to go to the conference in Amsterdam, you get to go to the conference in Germany." And Antonio knows as well, because I know Antonio did like a world tour, well, European tour of everywhere as well. And what people don't realize is it's great if that's something you do now and again, like, oh, I'm going to Brazil. That's your big trip that year. But when you go to Brazil, then you go to Poland, then you go to Germany, and then you go to France, and then after a while, the last thing you want to do is get on a plane and go anywhere. You just want to go and sit down and watch TV or something.
Don't get me wrong when I say this. I love being with developers. I love being face-to-face with customers. One of the reasons I switched from heading the R&D programming languages team at Borland was to become the language ambassador to the world. That's what my first title was. And then we said, okay, developer relations and developer advocates and so on. And in any case, there's nothing, try to sell something to someone if you can't shake their hand and at the same time reach into their pocket and take their wallet, and then hand them the product. So I wouldn't trade the more than 4 million miles and the time out there for anything.
I
It's
feel inadequate, don't you, Antonio?
you have to, face to face. This is okay, sort of, kind of
it's low impact,
but,
isn't it? Yes.
But it's when you, as you said, when you're in Europe visiting with developers, when you're in China, in Japan, in Australia, in Brazil,
Portugal,
visiting with, the only country there's many countries I wish I had visited. The only country I didn't visit in Europe for all of my career was Norway. I would be in Helsinki, Finland. I'd be in Denmark. I'd be in Stockholm, Sweden. And the Norwegians used to come to the events in one of the other countries. And they'd always say, David, why don't you come and visit us? And I always felt bad, but I went where I was told to go. And there were great partners, and Martin Palmdeath was there, and he would do those things. So I oftentimes would go to very large cities with large populations and big deals. But that's probably one of the countries. And Iceland was another one I thought would be.
Well,
really
they had me earmarked to go to Korea, and then South Korea probably had a big constitutional crisis with their prime minister or president or whatever it was. So they're like, yeah, but maybe that's not a good idea to come here. I'm like, okay, I was cool for it. I mean, what are they going to do? Yeah, but they're like, no, we think you should wait until our political situation has calmed down. I'm like, okay, well, it is what it is. So David Millington, I want to ask you a little question about you. A lot of people will say, well, what does the role of the PM involve? I kind of know some of it because I've done a PM's job in the past as well, but I did get involved in a little bit of weird management type stuff. But first of all, how did you get into that? I know because you wrote the Parnassa stuff long before you came to the company, and then you seem to you're a product manager now, is that right? Or project manager? I always get confused between PM. Yeah. I always say, the PMs, but when I think about it, I'm not entirely clear on what one's what. So.
Oh, look, I think I was really just extremely fortunate. I was using Delphi. I was running a small consulting company because I know I work as in C++ within Embarcadero now, but I mean, obviously, I love Delphi. It's wonderful. I was doing a consulting company that mostly did work in Delphi, and wrote a few plugins, and happened to be around the time that I think Idea was looking for someone with a focus on the IDE and modernization and that kind of thing. And I think I had been sort of trying to do some of the same thing externally, and everything just lined up. I was extremely fortunate. I really don't know why I was lucky enough versus some of the other amazing people.
Oh, we agree. We can't believe it either. No. I mean, I have to say, most of the employees I deal. I have a weird job. I'm everywhere behind the scenes. I don't know why. I just am, and I deal with the PMs. We kind of got slightly parallel roles in sometimes. What the PMs have to do involve what I have to do as well, and so there's a little bit of kind of collaboration, should I say, between us when necessary. But all three of the PMs actually. We haven't got Nuno on here. I did ask him if he wanted to come on, but Nuno is the other one. He's kind of the silent PM because he works very hard, but he isn't kind of in your face and appearing at events quite as much. But all three of the PMs are extremely professional. I really, it's actually, this is true of everybody I deal with at Embarcadero, that you've never met such a bunch of fanatics about the product. Like they're not just like, oh, I do it for a job. They do it because they like it. That they like the product. Some days they don't when everything's going wrong. But who doesn't have days like that? But overall, everybody's so engaged, so kind of enthusiastic. Same with Antonio as well. Who works extremely hard. Doesn't work on the PM side, but again, he works crazy times. And we were joking about his European tour, but seriously, I was with him in Portugal. He'd just been in Poland or was going to Poland. You've been to Germany.
I didn't go to Germany, but I was in Spain. Well, I'm from Spain, but I live in the UK. But there was like 3 weeks. I think I went to Poland, then to Portugal, then to the Netherlands, to Italy. It was jumping from. I felt like a pop star for a second. You know, when you wake up in a hotel and you don't really know which country you are.
No photographs. no photographs. Yeah. But I mean, but David, you don't tend to have to travel in your role, really, do you? I mean, it's not David Millington, that is, yeah.
Not a great deal, although, you know, sometimes we're invited to various events and that kind of thing, which, I mean, I really enjoy. I think we've been talking a lot about how travel can be tiring and stuff, and that's very true, but I know I find it really invigorating sometimes to talk to, meet people in person, and talk to people who are actually using what we build. Also, because it really synchronizes you with what people really want and need. And you asked what a product manager does. I mean, it's a complicated answer, but I think personally, there are two answers. Internally inside a company, I think a product manager is really a facilitator more than anything else, because there are so many areas of a company, your sales team and your marketing team and your engineering team and the business leadership and so forth. And you need to speak and understand all those languages. And the best thing you can do is to facilitate for everyone. But I think externally speaking, what we do is we try to design and we try to plan such that we can deliver something that people are going to find really valuable to use. Because that's good for you and that's good for the business, because if people want to use it, they will pay for it, and obviously the business needs to keep making money. So that's my answer. One side facilitator, the other side, I don't know, trying to understand and design and plan as best you can for that.
I always say to people, my role is because I'm a developer. That's my background for all of my entire working life. Effectively, I did some other things as well, but it helps me when I'm talking to a customer who's going, or a user, really, I don't like to call them customers, but they when they've got a problem and they're saying, I'm trying to do this, I actually understand because I've done that. I've been there when, what it's like. People ask me, sometimes I used to talk to schools sometimes about jobs and things like that. And I used to say to them, the thing about software development is that it's the best job in the world and it's the worst job in the world. Because the reason it's the best job in the world is there are very few jobs where it comes out of your head and becomes real. And it's a very involving, very absorbing, when it works, you've told the program how to do something and it works, it is fantastic. It is kind of like some kind of divinity has touched you, and you feel like you're walking on water. I'm the greatest person in the world. Look at what my program does. Aren't I clever? A day later, you sit in front of the program and it doesn't work, or someone tells you there's a bug, and you sit there for 3 days, and then you realize you've misspelt something really stupid in a really stupid way. And you go, I can't believe it. I'm so stupid. I'm really terrible. Every developer out there who's watching this stream will go, yep, I know that feeling. And that's what you try and tell people, is that when you're becoming a developer, it can be very frustrating, because some days, when you get to a certain level of development, there isn't anybody you can ask. You're the one with the answer, and if you haven't got the answer, then you can research it, you can talk to colleagues and things like that. But at the end of the day, quite often, it's got to come out of you, and that can be a very lonely place when something horrible is happening. And luckily, we've got all the tools in Rad Studio to highlight where you did something dumb, where you made those dumb mistakes, but also to facilitate the greatness, the happy moments where you're like, I rule. So, well, look, I don't want to take this.
I was about to say something else, if I might. I have two thoughts, actually.
There's no time limit, but unless everybody drops off and falls asleep on the chat.
The other thing about being a PM here, I think, is that is a product with a long history and a really it's been a lot of value for a lot of people, and there's been a huge amount of people who've worked on it over time. It's actually one reason, David, why I was so happy to see you on the stream today. I have an enormous amount of respect for everything that you've done and the part that you are within the company. And you've always been a real advocate for C++ as well. I hope, I haven't actually asked you, but I hope you like the new claim. And I think some of what we do here also is we really need to understand all of us stand on the shoulders of giants. Every one of us, whether we go back to Turing or Ada
And it's
Lovelace.
team effort as well.
Yeah, and so I feel like it's wonderful here to be at the 30th anniversary, and really need to recognize all the amazing people who've done an incredible amount for the product over 3 whole decades. It's amazing.
I've said this before on live streams with David. As a Delphi developer, when I was learning to use Delphi, David was the guy that taught me how to do it. And when I'm thinking about the knowledge that I gained in Delphi years ago, it's David I's voice inside my head saying stuff. Someone said you should do like podcasts or something because you've got a great voice. As a voice actor, which, believe it or not, weirdly enough, I do. I don't speak with my natural accent, which is what I've got here when I do the voiceover. I'm speaking much more like David Millington, who's much better pronunciation and enunciation than me, and I'm a Brit. So, but David, I mean, you're the voice in lots of people's head, and he did set the template for what developer relations should be long before it existed. There was no such thing really as developer relations or developer advocacy. People said, "Oh, you should be a developer evangelist." I don't like that title. I think it makes it sound like I'm trying to convince you to join us against your will and believe in something that is, a higher power. No, I advocate for the use of the language. Here's what it can do. I hope you will come and join us. And that's what I consider is advocacy. I didn't want to be tech evangelist or something. It just sounds too kind of,
Is this the bit where we're all supposed to make David feel uncomfortable?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Gosh, I hope I didn't do that.
So, I mean, here's my take. I don't really care about the titles very much in some ways, but it's more what it is that's going on. And when I started traveling, because Philippe said, "Hey, we need somebody out there who can explain things, but who can listen and understand and ask questions when people ask for features or they have a problem with something." And you can get that through surveys, sort of, kind of, but it isn't until you're face-to-face looking eye to eye and watching what people do that you can bring back to the product planning process and to the product team what people really want and need. But again, the other part was we realized early on, even the Turbo Pascal days, and we had these little toolboxes for database and editor and game works and so on, that we couldn't build everything that a developer would need. And so if you look at Delphi and the component architecture and the open and the API for the IDE and all the tools and component packages, and when Delphi 1 came out, okay, DLLs and controls, these whatever they were called back then, VBXs, I guess it was, that still wasn't going to be everything that developers need to get the job done. And so building up a community to buy the product, a technology partnership base to build the things that we couldn't get to, the book authors, the professors, and on and on and on was really a big part of it. And for me, I needed to learn as well. So I would write programs, and there's nothing like sometimes even live demoing where you're just trying things and it doesn't work, but that's the real world, and people are seeing you real time struggling with something. But what's great is at some of the user group meetings, I didn't have to catch everything because everybody else was catching everything by watching the screen. and I would go like, oh, I know, but then I'd hit compile, and it would compile so fast it would take me to the line of error. That was faster than scrolling back to something I did 2 minutes ago
That's
way up on the
true.
screen.
It's one of the few compilers where you can do something because you're not sure it's going to work, compile it and go, yeah, it didn't work. I need to do it properly this way. And that people don't realize that's not normal. It wasn't normal at all back in Delphi 1 days. You would, for C compilers of the time, you could go away and make something to eat and come back and it would still be compiling. COBOL was awful. I worked as a COBOL programmer for the longest time, but I was a C dev working on Unix systems and things like that as well. And this was not normal. It was not normal to have something that compiled so quickly and went to the line that was the error and highlighted it and went, see this is broken, you've messed up, you did the wrong syntax or whatever.
And that was a common complaint early on, is that we had ruined the coffee breaks for developers. They couldn't justify walking away and coming back to their bosses.
I have a t-shirt that says, I'm not slacking off, my code is compiling. It's a complete lie. I am slacking off. Well, I mean, you know my feelings about you, that I think you. I don't want to use the word legend because it makes it sound like you're going to go the way of Old Yeller or something like that. But you are. You. I know it was a job, but as you made it clear, it was something that you were very passionate about, and you are the template for people like me and all the others that have been before me and things like that, to make it clear. I work the same principles on. I want to talk to people. I want to hear what they got to say. Sometimes it's very frustrating when people are being very negative and don't want to listen to the truth. But again, if they're negative because something's wrong, it's better they tell us. Tell me the good and the bad. Because how can we improve if we only ever listen to the people that are our fans? We need to listen to the people that are not happy or they've got a problem. And I do. That's part of my job, is to make sure. And I say this to people: email me. I might not have the answer, but I will make sure the people who have got the answers will hear your voice. I am your funnel for making sure that you're a voice. If you don't like something about Windows, if you've got a problem with Microsoft Copilot or the Edge browser or something like that, I guarantee you do not have a name to email to say, this idea is horrible, I think the company should rethink it. They have they've got 1 billion users, but they still have nobody who you can say it's so-and-so's fault. Not true of Embarcadero. You've got several people, not just me, but the PMs, even Antonio and people like that. You can email them and you will get a response. If you email me, I will reply. Today's weird. I've been super busy, but usually I'll reply within an hour, a couple of hours at the most. I get a lot of email, but I manage my time very efficiently. That's unusual for a company like us, I believe. Responsiveness. I'm passionate about the product. I loved the product before I came for work for the company. People go, you're always so upbeat. Why wouldn't I be? Good grief, look at my job. I have a great job. Why would I be unhappy? It's one of those things.
I should say one thing. I had the luxury before I joined Borland of meeting with Atari wizards back in the days of Atari. They were called wizards.
Yes.
And also I met two of the early evangelists at Apple, Guy Kawasaki and Alon Rossman. They brought me a Macintosh, an original Macintosh in a covered bag because it hadn't been announced yet. And they said they wanted me to play with it because I worked for a software distribution company, and they needed to get more They needed to get a lot of Macintosh software into the computer stores, into the distribution channel this was 1984. And so I learned a lot back then. I changed my title over time. I think advocate is a good term, if any, versus, evangelist sounds like you're just trying to raise money, and just speak, get it.
Yes,
exactly. It was sort of like get them in the big tent and take their money. That was the evangelism on a sort of religious angle.
That was what I objected to.
For me, I use the term now cheerleader. I'm a developer cheerleader. And it doesn't really matter. I mean, I care about Borland. I care about C++. I care
I'm
about
not
Delphi,
wearing the
so-
skirt, David. I
so-
don't care how you try and convince me.
So I, now I use developer cheerleader to cheer on. It doesn't matter what language or what technology or what computer you're using. I'm going to be there to cheer you on and give you oxygen and sustenance to help you in your endeavors.
I have to say, Stefan Nyland, who, as we know from the videos, is a smart guy. David Millington, this is one for you because David and I occasionally discuss the AI stuff. Stefan suggests that any AI product that we have from Embarcadero should be called David AI. I'm like, that's a very good name, David AI.
It's a beautiful name, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, well, we didn't think of that, did we? But there you go. It was like I did that thing, an Instagram clone to show that you can do the user interface, and I called it Instagram, and Dave Nottage said, "Why didn't you call it Instagram?" I'm like, oh, it was such a good name, and I missed that as well. There's so many good names that go by. Dave, you're talking about buying a Pascal on a Macintosh, is that right? Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah.
Oh, that was really just something I put in the chat when Dave was.
Right. It shouldn't have mentioned it. Whoops.
One of my more humbling memories was, like a school, for example. I used Pascal and Delphi, and probably Pascal. And I don't even remember what it was back then. Pascal of some sort. And computer teacher dropped me into a coding competition in Pascal. I was like, sure, I can do that. Walked into the room, it was full of Macintoshes. I'd never used one before. They're set in front of a Pascal environment. It was missing all of the libraries that I knew about, all of the units I knew about, all of everything. I failed completely. I couldn't do anything. There was no sysutils. It was a humbling experience in terms of the coding competition. I probably came last, absolute last. I really don't remember, but it wouldn't surprise me.
Well, I'll tell you something that happened to me, which is along a similar line, where you can take these paths in life. There's been a few movies about it, Sliding Doors and all the rest of it. And Pascal nearly got me a job at Apple. Pascal did. And it was Apple in the UK. At the time, I think most people know this, that Apple were a very big Pascal user. They had their own version of Apple Pascal, which was interesting language, and they used it to write a lot of their products. And a lot of their application development, because they still in those days had their own applications they used to write and then sell, because when they first started selling Apple Kit, you needed software to run on it. Otherwise, why would you buy it? And so that they encouraged third-party developers to write, but they also had their own apps. And one of them was Apple Accounts. And I saw an advert for a job, and they said they wanted someone who could write in Pascal and C, I think it was. I can't quite remember. And the reason was that they needed someone who could use both languages and convert some interfaces to Pascal, some Pascal things to C, and work in both. So I went for the job interview. First of all, it was a surreal experience, big glass building, and there was a guy cleaning the windows. And I wasn't sure what floor it was to go for the interview. So I said to this guy, excuse me, I don't know whether you know what floor Apple, they're called like Apple Accounts. I think the company name is called that. I said, I've got a job interview. I'm looking for a so-and-so. I won't say the person's name. And he went, oh, yeah, that's me. He was wearing like jeans and a ripped up T-shirt. He was absolutely covered in crap, And I went, oh, okay. And I thought, okay. So I went to Metroworks Pascal. Yeah, I went in with him, had the interview. He gave me some coding questions, which were not difficult, and we talked about C. And I said, "Oh, it's like a high-level assembler, basically." And we talked about the nuances of it. And he went, "Great, okay." And in those days, you didn't tend to phone people. You would write to give them a job offer, or you would tell them on the spot, or you would say, "Can you come back in a week's time," or whatever. But anyway, as I was going out, he said, "Oh, we'll probably offer you the job." and then I got someone, I think it was an agent, phone me up and say, "Oh, they've offered you the job." However, in the time that it took for them to do that, I decided that Apple was going down the tubes. I was going to go bust. So I said, "No, thank you. I don't want to work for Apple." And it was a subdivision of Apple, but yeah, I turned down a job working for them, which was a bad idea. So it was just the way it is.
To be fair, it's a subdivision that probably didn't survive the cuts.
No, I'm sure they would close, and I probably wouldn't survive in Apple anyway. I haven't got the right personality for it, but yeah. Anyway, so look, we're cracking on. It's probably time to call it a day. For some of you, it's super, super late. For the British-based people, which is Antonio and Richard, they're both. It's what, 8:30 at night, nearly, isn't it, or something like that?
Yeah, it's going to be half. Yeah, 8:30.
David, it's like
even later.
Oh, yeah. Something, I don't know. He's earlier, and then David Millins. What time is it for you, David? Huh?
About 10 p.m.
Yeah,
but I like, magic of technology. Here we are. I'm on an island in the middle of the Baltic Sea and talking to you guys in America and England, and
it
talking
works
about a wonderful technology product. It's been a blast. So.
Yeah, it is amazing, really, and things have changed so much since those days. But I think for the better. It's an exciting time to be alive. I think AI has got some very interesting things that are going to come out of it, good and bad, probably. But I've been in the industry quite as long as David I, but I've been pretty 40 years plus actually as a developer, and I've seen many changes as well. I still to this day I love Delphi, and I am very lucky, I think, to work for the company, do the job I do. It's not difficult for me to be positive about it because I genuinely think it's a great product. So it's there's always little issues with anything, but I think fundamentally I'm a very lucky person to do the job I do, and I get to talk to you guys on a regular basis. Richard Hatherall is the reason I have Richard on is because he is a super smart guy. And, you're on for another webinar in the future. I'll talk less on those ones. All right. Yeah, thanks here. And Antonio, thank you to you as well. You are one of those people that carry the message far and wide, further than I go. And, it's these kind of people that need to recognize that the reason Delphi is still around and still successful. And I know people say, "Oh, Ian, it's this." No. I am the public face that you see on the screen of a big team behind us. There are people like April. There's people like producer Martha, who's not on at the moment. I think, oh, yeah, she might be. Martha. There's all those people whose names you probably don't know and may never know, who work very, very hard. I'm the one you see the most often on the screens, but I'm carrying our collective message about the product out there. But it's people like Antonio are really at the coalface, and Richard, without products like Richard's stuff, we'd be nothing. And David Millington, well, David takes all the flack and gets none of the benefits out of it. He's just every day, welcome. There's another new thing for you to deal with. Yes, exactly.
And Ian, if I could, let me give a plug to Antonio for all the great work, and Steven's not here now, on updating the RAD server course and the RAD server manual to bring it up to date, the book, to bring it all up to date, so that people can use Delphi to create server-side backends, both lightweight and heavier weight, I guess,
and
would
web
be the way to
stencils.
say it.
He wrote the web
Good job.
stencils book as well.
Yeah.
And he also did this book as well, which is a new thing on the Get It. It's our anniversary present, I suppose we would call it, for today. If you go down, that category will automatically appear in your Get It, and it'll say books. Click on there. There's only one book at the moment, but getting started with RAD Studio. If that is, if you're new to it, or even if you're not new to it, you can go ahead and download that book for free today.
Yes, I want to add that I've written a few chapters of that book, but also my colleagues Fernando and Alicia have done an amazing job with that book.
Oh, Fernando, you know what? Yeah, he's another guy.
So has been a team effort. This
Yeah.
book, and updating the Rad server one, it was quite a challenge because it was your name, David, on the cover. So I really was trying to make a good job with it because it also was one of my first tasks when I joined. Well, thank you very much.
Apparently, you asked ChatGPT how many floppy disks it would require for a current ISO, and it said 5,257 floppy disks.
Yes,
I'm sure that is probably the entire supply for the United States ever. So, in the last 5 years or something, because I don't think they're very common now. But
yeah,
I did see one for sale in a local Office Depot or something like that. I saw some floppy disks. I thought, I don't believe people still use them, but apparently they do. So, I mean, vinyl, I understand, but floppy disk, good grief, yeah. Who's got a machine that can even load it?
I don't even have a CD-ROM or DVD player on my computer anymore.
Oh, I've got a external floppy drive, 5 1/4 and 3 1/2 that connects to my USB IDE controller that I plug in if I need to copy it. The only one I haven't tried is my zip disk. So there you go. But
I used to have a zip disk as well. Well, my brother does. My brother is
We'll
connected
be
as
here
well.
forever. If we start talking about old pieces of kit, nobody's going to eat. We'll be here for the next. I can tell you about tape drives. I used to be a COBOL programmer. Believe me, I can outdo you with tons of computer kit.
And I have to go shovel snow and break up some ice in the driveway.
Exactly. So. You live in the frozen north, and I live in the warm and sunny south. So there you go. All right. Well, look, I appreciate all of you, and I want to thank everybody as well. All of the people that turn up. There's some people that are regulars, Paul and Knut and Francis and people like that. I can't call you all out, but I just want to say thank you to you. I'm not going to put me on the big screen. I'm going to leave everybody on here for now. But if you're in Europe, go to the Delphi Summit. If you can afford it, if you've got the ability to go, it will be a big deal. I promise you. But I want to thank my guests, which are Antonio, David Millington, Richard Hatherall. Sorry, I talked a lot, and sometimes you didn't get to talk as much as perhaps you should, but that's the way the cookie crumbles. And also, someone, Delphi Modern Philosophy, send a book link. Just go into the Get It Package Manager, click on books, and there's only one book there. For the other books, you need to go to our website, go to Embarcadero.com, and you can see the books there.
I just wrote a blog post as well about
blogs.embarcadero.com, and it's on there as well. But if not, email us and send Antonio a load of emails. Go on, let's hassle him.
Man, that's Ian's thing, not mine.
Oh,
I'm kidding. No, yeah, any question.
Anyway, well, look, thank you. But more importantly, 30 years in, I just want to thank every single one of you that is watching this video. You're probably a fan, or you accidentally landed here when you were looking for something to do with polar bears and ice skating or something. But hey, we're good too. And all of us here on this call, we're all fans as well as people that have been involved in the product. But the company is nothing without its users, and I appreciate every single one of you. And please email me if you've got something to talk about to do with the product. I'm happy to hear from you, and I want to say 30 more years, but I'll be too old, and I think David and I will probably not be around for the next 30th anniversary unless we're very, very lucky or preserved in a jar or something, which AI will probably do by that point.
Your head in a jar, like in Futurama.
That's the one, yeah. Exactly. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks a lot, guys. And I'm going to end the stream, but see you all again soon. Thank you all.
Okay.
Bye.